Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. Welcome to our first developer call of the year. So we'll jump right in. For today's agenda, we'll be covering the ZRX portal that we launched a little over a week ago. We also want to talk about an overview of like the entire ZRX liquidity funnel and kind of all the different moving pieces there. We want to cover ZRX API and some of the functionality that we'll be offering with that. Wanted to talk about some relayer monetization opportunities and then our short-term governance roadmap update. And then finally, we wanted to open up a discussion around the ZEIP process. So yeah, as I mentioned, first dev meeting of the year. Wanted to wish everyone a very happy new year. Yeah, I think it's been a crazy last couple of years since the launch of ZRX, and most of the people on this call have been around for a really long time. So yeah, just really thankful to everyone for your contributions to the ecosystem, and we wish you a lot of success in the new year and the new decade.
All right, I'll take over. So guys, we wanted to give you a quick update on the launch of ZRX Portal. We briefly touched upon it in our last developer call. As you might have seen last week, on Thursday last week, we launched the new portal, which brings to life the staking mechanics that were introduced with E3. We encourage you to take a look at that. If you haven't, the link is over there, zrx.org/ZRX. We called it actually ZRX Portal because it's not only about staking, it also has a governance section. So it's really about creating a home for the token and what it represents for the ZRX ecosystem. Can we go to the next slide? So as a recap, why a ZRX portal? Well, the goal is at first to make it easy and rewarding for token holders to delegate their ZRX and interact in an easy way with the staking system. We have introduced VV3. The actions that token holders can take on the website are basically reviewing aggregate staking data, being able to check the different staking pools that are available with all the details that they should be caring about. Obviously, once they select the staking pools that they want to stake with, there's the ability to do so. And once their stake has been active and the staking pools that have selected have been collecting rewards, there's obviously a way for the token holders to withdraw rewards. So as we pointed out in our comms, it's working currently with MetaMask on desktop, but also we made it work with also mobile through, for example, Coinbase Wallet. We discovered that also Trust Wallet over iOS has some glitches, but right now those are if you want, the official supported wallets. You can also use hardware wallets such as Ledger or Trezor through MetaMask. Also, something important to note is that we wanted to add additional, basically, liquidity rewards to the system for a limited time, and that will start. Someone is asking. Yeah, I think we'll have time for a Q&A.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a Q&A as always.
Yeah. Yes, we will we will add additional rewards starting next epoch, and for approximately 2 months. As a reminder, an epoch lasts 10 days, so 50 days. Can we go to the next slide? Real quick, for some early metrics about the launch. It was fairly positive. We've seen already 6 million ZRX staked in a week by over 600 unique addresses. We have still a limited number of staking pools, and we are expecting that to increase as the volume of V3 increases and as the additional liquidity rewards are injected in the next epochs. But yeah, if you haven't staked your ZRX, we obviously encourage you to do so. The next epoch is actually this screenshot is very fresh. So the next epoch is really starting in 5 hours. So if you want your ZRX to be actively staked for next epoch and be able potentially to get a little share of those 5K, we encourage you to do so soon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think in total, including this 3.29 Ether, you've been close to 7 Ether in rewards, which, I think given the volume starting to trend up, I think it's like a decent number. But yeah, I also just want to emphasize that, the real goal of this is to distribute more power to the market makers in the system. And yeah, I think like the amounts of ZRX staked are actually like a pretty important metric to look at.
Yeah.
So for, whenever the next vote is, these staking pools will have more stake by default. Cool. So ZeroX is a fairly complex system as it is today. There are a lot of moving pieces, and I think that's actually, a lot of where its strength lies in that, it's very flexible, and at the end of the day, you're able to, exchange value in pretty much any way you want, if you have the expertise to do so. But we've gotten the feedback that it's almost too generalizable at times, and the developer experience can be confusing because of that. There is ZRX Mesh, which has been up and running for a while now. Peer-to-peer network for propagating ZRX orders. There are relayers. There are now these ERC20 bridge contracts that can aggregate liquidity from other decentralized exchanges. And then there are a handful of decentralized applications interacting with ZRX, consuming liquidity in a variety of different ways. So the purpose of laying out all of these in this chart is just to show you how everything slots together and how we're attempting to simplify all of this and put all the pieces together into ZRX API. So the goal of ZRX API really is to create a really nice unified developer experience, and in the future, we can continue to add various functionality to it, and people can interact with it in a very language agnostic way, and also a way that's familiar to most developers and traders. I'll let Fulvia take it from here.
All right. Yeah. So a little bit elaborating a little bit more on what Amir was explaining. We've talked about ZRX API in the past before in the previous meeting, but just wanted to recap what is ZRX API. So essentially, it is a service created by the ZRX core team to help developers and teams easily interface with ZRX mesh network liquidity, but also with on-chain DEX liquidity, all in one place under one single integration. It is with a simple get call, you guys can get quotes to swap tokens, leverage an SRA interface, or discover assets available on ZRX. And essentially what we've been playing around with is with the concept of upgradable liquidity. So as more liquidity sources become available, whether it's through other DEX networks and as ZRX Mesh liquidity itself improves, the API will automatically upgrade with the additional bridges that ensure pricing for your users is continually improving without you having to do any additional dev work. It will also allow you to offer the best prices pretty much always for any token, popular and long tail tokens alike. And the other thing that's important to point out here is that it's open source and it offers you a flexible integration. So you can use, the ZRX core team will be hosting a version of the API that you can use to launch your product easily, or if you don't want to kind of like deal with having to run your own instance. But if you do want to run your own instance, you will be able to do that as well. Next slide. So we really want to invite you to get started with ZRX API. You can take a look at the documentation in the presentation that Brent shared. We will be releasing the documentation, like the nice version in the website, as well as guides next week. And if you have any questions or feedback and you want to learn more about ZRX API, you can join the Discord channel. Also, the link is there. So.
Cool. So yeah, I wanted to make sure to cover, how we're viewing the evolving role of relayers in the ecosystem. Mesh is this permissionless, decentralized network where people can just dump their orders into, and there is not a huge incentive to put orders into Mesh that contain a fee recipient and fees. So I think that begs the question, how can relayers monetize in a post-Mesh world? So first of all, Mesh is intended to serve as a public good for the entire ecosystem, and we're hoping that's where a large amount of liquidity aggregates. There's actually a lot of liquidity in Mesh today, which is not very easy to discover at the moment. So I think there's some opportunity tapping into that today. We're hoping that Mesh liquidity is also consumed by relayers and displayed to the end users of relayers as well. And we're trying to simplify this process also with ZRX API, which is intended to also be run by external teams if they wanted to do so, and that'll kind of automatically spin up a mesh node and propagate that liquidity to your end users. So now as a relayer, you have all of these mesh orders that don't necessarily have fees on them. So how can you monetize? So I think some things definitely become more important. First of all, as a relayer, you could definitely still continue to charge fees on proprietary liquidity. And with the launch of V3, this became much more simple in that you can charge fees in any arbitrary asset. We're hoping to start seeing relayers charge fees. And in order to attract proprietary liquidity, I think there's definitely an advantage in differentiating as much as possible. I think there are a lot of different verticals that are starting to pop up within DeFi. You could run a margin trading platform, you can run a coordinator, or some other relayer model like RFQ, for example. You can offer extra services to users like stop loss orders, for example. And yeah, I guess on this bullet, I'm curious to hear if anyone has any questions on any of the ideas I just mentioned, or if anyone is seriously interested in pursuing any of these things, because we are also planning our roadmap for the next 6 months or so, and I think it's important that the things we build end up being used. So you can definitely do all the things that we just mentioned as is, but I think it would be simplified if there was kind of a golden path for developers to do some of these things. All right, we'll move on then. So you could also definitely charge fees for pinning long-lived orders into the mesh network. So this becomes a problem when there are just too many orders flowing through mesh. We are not close to that point yet, but hopefully we can get there over the next year. I think right now the capacity of the network is around 100,000 orders, and at that point, nodes will start dropping orders and can prioritize based on fees that they include. Or if a relayer is hosting a mesh node, they can prioritize those based on orders that are more advantageous to them. And then finally, relayers can charge affiliate fees on orders in the mesh network. So I wanted to specifically touch on affiliate fees because there are a couple different ways that this can be done. The first two are very easy, so I'll cover those first. So the forwarder contract has existed for a really long time. This is for simplifying the process of purchasing a token with Ether. You just send Ether to the contract along with some orders. It'll take care of handling allowances and all that, and it'll do either a market buy or a market sell. The forwarder contract also natively supports affiliate fees, and this is what powers ZRX Instant. So if you're running an instance of Instant, then you can pretty easily charge affiliate fees there on top of mesh liquidity. For the external DEX liquidity that's powered by the ERC20 bridge proxy, there's also a fairly straightforward way to add fees. So when you're using ZRX API and you're interacting with our swap quote endpoint, you'll just say, I want to buy, let's say 1,000 DAI, and it'll just like give you the exact orders and call data that you need to do that, and that will automatically route across the different decentralized exchanges. So what you can do with all the orders that involve an external DEX, you can just add a fee recipient address and a fee, and that would automatically come out of that and be sent to the fee recipient. And then finally, for arbitrary trades, there's a bit of a more complex way to do this. So we're calling these affiliate orders. This is where an order specifies an asset on one side, and then on the other side of the trade, it's really just a no-op transfer. So this would be like a static call to the null address. So once you fill this order, it really just results in a one-way transfer. So this is a way you can just add affiliate fees into batch fills or market fills by creating these affiliate orders and appending them to the fill. So again, this is a bit more low level, and we're kind of deciding how to prioritize building tooling around this feature. So I'm interested to hear if people would actually consider using this today on top of mesh liquidity.
Can I talk? Sorry.
Yeah.
So I am João from Veridex. I tried to find this kind of solution, arbitrary trades, because I am building a DEX wizard where I want people from other DEXs, from projects to use my front end and use my DEX wizard to use my front end. And my first problem is this: how I give them the affiliates where they in their affiliate DEX. I don't know if you understand what. I'm trying to find if there is any documentation regarding these arbitrary trades, or if this is only an idea for now, and you plan to start building something for this.
Yeah, there's no documentation right now. We can definitely write something up, maybe post it as a ZEIP and see if people want to dig deeper, and we could potentially build some tooling around that. I don't think it would be extremely difficult. So yeah, we can go ahead and write up what the flow for this would look like, and if you want to start experimenting with that, you can.
Yes. Sorry, you can continue.
No, go ahead.
If you have this kind of solution right now, I can start using it because I already have the DEX wizard ready. I only, but this problem, people not use it if they cannot earn money from their affiliation. Right now, my solution was in the wizard, give the fee recipient for the forward, only for the forward orders is
Yeah.
the only way I give them the possibility to earn fees from their affiliated DEX. So it was like I used the first point, but there are multiple orders that not people, if people buy with rapid ether already don't. I cannot use the forward, only if I before convert to it and then do this. So if there is a solution for arbitrary trades where I can also have multiple affiliations, not only one affiliate. For instance, I want people buy. One part goes to the wizard, and the other part goes to the affiliate for all the orders traded in that affiliate DEX. If that is possible, I think the DEX wizard will have multiple projects will wanna use that kind of solution, because they will not need to host anything. That will be only in front end, and I can do these affiliations using smart contracts or using this arbitrary trades solution. So if you have a solution for this, I can start already trying to implement it and add it to the current implementation I have of the DEX wizard.
Yeah, there is definitely a way to have multiple fee recipients. You would need a separate order per fee recipient. I guess one thing to watch out for is, every order you add will increase gas costs slightly. But we haven't seriously benchmarked this yet. I think as a next step, it would probably help to document this. And if you wanted to start messing around with it, I don't think it would be very difficult to do, even without tooling that's specific to this. So curious to get your feedback on the ZEIP. I think I saw some questions pop up in the chat. I cannot see those at the moment.
Yeah, me neither. I was trying to pull that out.
I can read them out loud.
Sure. Thank you.
So the first question is, will the forwarder handle the use case for affiliate fees? For example, affiliate fees for batch fills, market fills, etc.
So yes, it does, but at the moment, the forwarder is just ETH to token. You can't do token to Ether or token to token. And it's possible to make the forwarder a bit more generic so that it can handle token to token, but there's not a huge advantage in doing so, because you would need to approve the forwarder to spend your assets. So at that point, it's fairly similar to just going directly to the exchange. But you would actually get affiliate fees on top of that. So maybe that is a viable option. And also, we recently redeployed the forwarder. It supports multiple affiliate fees to multiple fee recipients now. I don't think that update has been published yet, but it should be in the next few days. Were there any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, there is one more. So the question is, if there's a signature around a bundle of orders, such that bundling in a fee order does not guarantee atomic execution of all orders, is that correct? Or do users could just pull the orders out of the bundle and fill them individually without the fee order?
So if you're programmatically trading, it's pretty easy to strip out affiliate orders, I would say. You would probably need something closer to a coordinator to avoid that, where you actually need to sign off on their transaction and kind of force it to include an affiliate fee. But I do think that affiliate fees are a fairly proven out business model, across various online industries. And, I doubt people are programmatically trading a lot of these different markets, especially like non-fungible token marketplaces and stuff like that. And I think there always will be, a group of retail traders that are using front ends, and there's definitely opportunity to monetize there. In general, so Giles said that he's interested in this. What would people say their overall level of interest is? Who else is on this call? High level of interest. Good. Cool. All right. I guess we could take this discussion to the ZIP once it's posted.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good. All right. Speaking of ZIP, we wanted to give you an update on what we're thinking about in terms of governance. This is really more about how we continue making sure that the development of the ZRX protocol is community-owned. As you are well aware, we also introduced the staking mechanics to make sure the distribution of ZRX tokens is basically more concentrated on actors that have more skin in the game. So market makers, but also relayers and other people that utilize the network and the protocol. One of the problems that we would like to basically solve is how to increase participation on protocol upgrades. Basically, our goal is to get to more people, more institutions to vote, and more often. There are multiple problems that could be solved, but we decided to basically start from these two, which are the ones that we feel we can tackle first with most impact. We think that we should be standardizing probably the ZEIP process, where anyone can propose, implement, and vote on features. And also, we know that, we all know that the current system of voting is actually not binding. It's not on-chain. Basically, the results are pulled off-chain manually. So we want to basically start preparing for the future where we have a fully on-chain binding system. Let's start from the ZEIP process. Process means most probably not having to code much. So it's something that we think we can land pretty quickly. But in order to do that, we want to run a little kind of research phase where we get to learn from you and anyone that has participated in the current process what the main pain points were. So I would like to stop for a second and right now, if there's anyone that has basically feedback or an experience that they want to share about the current ZEIP process that basically was not ideal, more specifically what pain points you had or what blocked you from, for example, asking the need for an affiliate fee, for example, through a ZEIP, or what do you think we should be solving in this new process? We welcome any suggestion.
I was thinking that ZEIP is only could be proposed by ZRX team. That's why
this is a great piece of feedback because they were meant to be exactly almost the opposite.
That's why I never try to propose. I only give my feedback sometimes on Discord, but I never thought that community was supposed to propose improvements. This is my way of thinking of the process, but I don't know. We could do initial discussion in forums, and if the community vote in the forums, you can turn that to a ZIP or do an issue on the GitHub, and if there is sufficient votes, we can build a ZIP from it. Or in Discord, we can create could have a channel for proposed ZIPs, and the community starts to share there some improvements to the protocol. It's my suggestions.
Were there many instances, Joao, where you were basically blocked by kind of that? Where, I don't know if you can recall. And there was this one about affiliate fees, obviously, that I think you shared also on Discord. But any other instances that you recall?
Right now, my main problem right now is that, from my point of view, is the affiliate fees. But this is from my solution that I am implementing right now. Sometimes I remember other issues, but right now my main point is this one. And maybe, I don't know, the protocol. I saw the protocol fee could be extremely higher for the collectibles. I don't know if it's possible to the ZRX put allow fees, protocol fees for the collectibles. I saw that 10 cents, 20 cents can highly impact collectibles. Right now, I think it's the only issues I saw is that for low trades, the protocol fees could impact higher. And the other ones are the affiliate fees. And right now, I don't remember more. But if I remember, if we create a channel, I can start to write when I remember, and then in the next call, I could talk about it. But right now, is the only ones I remember.
Yeah, we're definitely, specific issues aside, I think we're particularly interested in the process from getting an idea to an actual vote. I think pretty much everything we've voted on up until now, they've been fairly large features implemented by the ZRX core team. And I feel like a part of that has been because this process is not well defined, and people think that maybe if they write up a ZEIP, it won't be seriously considered for a vote. So we're kind of floating some ideas internally around just having a very well-defined process so that anyone can bring something to a vote if it gets enough interest. So I think
yes, I think if it is well defined that the ZIPs could be simple improvements and not high level improvements like migration from V2 for V3, I think people will be willing to propose ZIPs. If that is clear in the documentation, if that is clear in when people start read about it, then for me, I thought I will not propose the ZIP for a simple thing. If he defined how much could be discussed in ZIP and where is the place to discuss it, I think people will start propose ZIPs at higher level.
Nice, thanks for sharing. Anyone else that wants to share an experience they had or something similar, suggestions?
I think for next steps, we will probably create some sort of a meta ZIP on the process itself and try to bring the discussion there.
It's actually the next slide, so then I can wrap up this section here. So again, what's next about this update? Again, to reiterate the two problems, we want to improve the ZIP process, so we want to hear as much feedback as possible. So even if it's not during this call, please feel free to reach out to us directly. I mean, the channels that you're used to, the ones that you prefer, it will be picked up because it's something that we care about. We will consolidate this feedback, and also we'll make sure to create this meta ZIP about the ZIPs if you want. So that's going to be the place for the discussion. And we want to, our goal is to really land on something over the next few months, ideally at the end of this quarter. Then the other problem we mentioned is about the fact that the results of votes are not binding right now. That's a difficult problem to solve if we think about the big upgrades such as V3, for example. However, we think that we can get started with something smaller, so probably on something that is more around parameter setting, those especially that have some low security type of implications. An example of that could be the staking parameters, and something that we're going to explore in Q1 as well. All right. That, I think we're talking about the survey, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's been a while since our last feedback survey, and with the start of the new year, we wanted to make sure to get feedback on improving the usefulness of this particular meeting. So yeah, if you can take a few minutes, at some point over the next few weeks, please fill out this survey. The deadline is end of the month, January 31st. All right, and now we can move on to Q&A. Still have a good amount of time left in this meeting, so feel free to go for it.
Is there an ATA for the code base that uses the new forwarder, specifically looking for V2 and V3 batching? Meaning the backward compatibility, probably? They mean that?
Yeah, so
okay.
That has been merged, and we're just waiting for our next package republish, which I think is currently slated for today, but I don't want to make any promises. I would say look out for it over the next few days.
That's David, yeah. He asked for this yesterday.
Any other questions?
I have a question regarding staking. I think I don't understand some parts of staking. I created a pool. That means, and I am starting implementing a WE in the Veridex, where basically I will invite all my users to join as market maker. But according to the documentation, is better only one market maker per pool, or could be multiple market makers in a pool with few trades? This is the right approach, or is not good to invite all traders to join on the pool as market maker?
I think it's a viable strategy, but you just need to be wary that there can one address can only be registered to a single pool at a time. So if someone is in your pool, they cannot be in a different pool. And yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but being a market maker in a pool is different than delegating to a pool. Being a market maker in a pool is more intended for a single entity that controls multiple addresses. But I think as a sort of a growth hacking strategy, I could see something like this.
Yeah, it's pretty smart. But it's probably, maybe for all of you guys it's obvious, but maybe it's useful to reiterate that maker is very different than a market maker, meaning that it's useful maybe to recall what market makers are and who we thought about when we were designing the system. And really, market makers are those entities that really are in the tens, even in traditional finance, that really provide liquidity to the system and make sure that prices are good. These are basically entities that control hundreds of orders. This happens in traditional finance, it happens on centralized exchanges, and now it's starting to grow in decentralized exchanges. And basically, those are the actors that we want if you want to give more ownership of the protocol on. Now, every retail trader can be a maker of an order. Potentially, they are not market makers, meaning that they are not influencing the whole market. But yes, it's true. But technically speaking, they are makers of maybe a small number of orders. So it's not or the original, if you want, design that we thought of when we were designing these systems. However, it's true. As a growth hacking technique, it's pretty interesting because in a way, these users, yes, they could be delegating to market makers, but also in this way they get a chance to basically get back some of the protocol fees that they are originating. So it's pretty interesting as a design.
I thought if users start think they belong to that DEX, they will start using that DEX because they want to grow the pool and they want to grow the ZRX. They stake that pool, so they will start using only that DEX. I thought they maybe as a marketing approach or a decentralized way of market making. Like 10 users maybe is not like a huge market maker, but if you talk about thousands of users, token teams, and all these together in one pool, they will start be a huge market maker for themselves. My question is: this is the protocol will work that way, or is not intended to have a pool with thousands of market makers? It's not at all.
It's not really intended for that. I think it will maybe only work until a point. I mean, like, yeah, one thing to make note of here is that only the actual pool operator will receive those rewards. So it's not like, everyone in the pool will split their rewards or anything. If you're trying to do something like that, then I would explore the delegation mechanics probably. I guess they could join a pool and delegate to it. That could work too.
Yeah.
Okay, for me it's all.
Let's see.
David asked
one more question from David. Has the team decided to move forward on a proxy contract to allow for the buying of an ERC 721 asset based on its properties? Yes, we are currently speccing out the best way to do that. Not sure if it's something that will end up being, very generic or, something that's kind of more specific to Gods Unchained. But I think there's a fairly straightforward way to do it in our existing forwarder contract. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And again, yeah, Happy New Year. See you next month.
Yeah.